Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and this is where I talk about all of the bookish things that I love. So for this video, we are going to be talking about romances that have children in them. So this is children, like the hero or heroine have children, not that the romance is between the children. You knew what I meant. It's fine. So I actually really like having children in romances because I think it adds like an extra dynamic to the story. Like the characters have to not only take into account their own feelings, but also like what's best for their children, and I think it just adds like an even extra layer to the drama and also to the tension between the characters of like, okay, I want to be with them, but they may not be the best. It might not be the best time to get into a relationship because I have this child and I have to take care of them, kind of thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I have quite a few actually, but I don't own any of them. I actually own like 2 of them physically, so I'm just going to put pictures up. So let's just jump right in. So the first one that I want to talk about is To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. This is actually part of the Bridgerton series. And while I suggest reading the Bridgerton series in order, you don't technically have to. Like there are appearances of other characters, but it's not a continuation of the same characters in each book. Like each book follows a different sibling, so you don't technically need to read them in order, but I would recommend it. This is the 5th book in the series, and it follows Eloise Bridgerton and Sir Philip. So Sir Philip is a widower. He has 2 twin children, and he is searching for a wife to be a mother to his children after his wife died. Eloise is the distant cousin of Philip's late wife, and so when she passes away, Eloise writes letters to Philip and is like, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss, I was a distant cousin, and they end up having this like pen pal style relationship. And then after they've been writing for a couple of, I think like a month or 2 or a couple of months, Philip writes, hey, we get along in our letters and I need a new wife to be a mother to my children. Do you want to get married? And Eloise is like, what? And so instead of responding to the letter, she shows up at his house and is like, hey, you asked if I wanted to get married, so I showed up to see if we should get married, if we'll get along and stuff. So it's quite funny, that beginning situation where Philip's like, wait, you showed up? But I really enjoyed this book. It was one of my favorites that I've read in the series. It's actually the last Bridgerton book that I've read. I haven't read the 6th, 7th, or 8th ones. I'm waiting for the audiobooks from my library. But I really enjoyed this one, and I really liked Philip. He was one of my favorite love interests from all of the Bridgerton books that I've read, and it is the only Bridgerton book that they already have children. So Philip has these 2 like terrors of little twin kids. They're like very young, and they are really like against having somebody come in. They want to spend more time with their dad, and their dad just like doesn't know how to be a good dad, and which is a theme throughout the Bridgerton books actually, that like they're not sure if they'll be a good dad, but Philip is the only one that's already a dad, and so he's like, I don't want to mess up, so I just stay away from them. And so they're raised a lot of the time by his late wife before she died, and then by nannies, like school. They also like teach them and everything. Governesses, that's the word I was looking for. And this one, the kids keep like making the governesses quit or leave because they like play can't talk today. They like play pranks on them and stuff, and it's really funny. And then when Eloise shows up, they try and play pranks on Eloise, and Eloise is like, I grew up with this many siblings. You can try and play. Why can't I say that? You can try and play pranks on me, but I know all of the tricks in the book. And so she actually like starts playing pranks back on the children, and it's really funny. They're like interactions, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I would definitely recommend the entire Bridgerton series, but this one especially. The next one is The Highlander by Kerrigan Byrne. This is part of her Victorian Rebels series. The first one is The Highwayman. This is the third one in the series, but again, you can read them as standalones, which you can for most historical romances. But this one is about a girl who was in an insane asylum, put there by her husband. But she's not insane. Her husband just didn't want to deal with her anymore. And so she is rescued from this insane asylum, and she has to hide from her husband. And so she is helped by these people from the previous books, and she is sent to Scotland to pretend to be a governess for this man who needs a governess for his children. So she has a fake name. She pretends to be a governess so that she can hide from her evil husband and his family. And I really, really enjoyed this one. It's actually one of my favorites in the whole Victorian Rebel series. I really, really liked the main heroine, whose name I obviously can't remember because I never remember character names. And both characters have like a lot to like work through, as with most Kerrigan Byrne books. Both characters are quite like damaged. They have a lot that they're working through. Obviously, she had this time in this insane asylum, and she's hiding from people, and the hero doesn't know. And then the hero, he was in the war. He's like the demon Highlander. Like people like fear him. He's very like intense, and he has spent a lot of time at war, and he spent a lot of time away from his children. And it's sort of very similar to Philip from To Sir Philip with Love, where he doesn't really know how to be a great dad because he didn't have a great dad. But this one is different from To Sir Philip with Love because his children are older. They're actually like in their teens. And so the main heroine has to teach them how to be proper people, because the hero is the laird of a clan, and he is titled. So they never had like a proper like society introduction. So their governess has to teach them how to be proper in society and what proper young ladies and gentlemen are supposed to act and do, and how they're supposed to dress, and what their like hobbies should be, kind of thing. And I found it really interesting. This is one of the only ones on this list where the children are teenagers, and I think that added even something extra to the story, because the characters the children have like full personalities and they aren't just children who don't really understand what's going on. They're teenagers that are like, I can talk back to you. I have my own thoughts. I am a grown person. I don't want to be taught. And I really, really liked that aspect of it. The next one is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This is not a historical. It is actually a contemporary sports romance. And this one is amazing. I just read it recently and I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, but it is very intense. The book itself deals with domestic abuse and being trapped in a relationship and cover-ups and a whole bunch of things. And the heroine who experienced the domestic abuse has a child with the man who abused her. And it makes her stuck in the relationship. And I feel like it makes it more difficult for her to leave because she has this child to think of, and she wants to protect her child more than anything. And she doesn't want her child to end up in the hands of her abuser, who is the child's father. And so it makes the story even more like heartbreaking because she stays in this horrible relationship knowing that she wants to leave, but that she has to figure out a way to do it while keeping her child safe from the father. Um, so like when he hits her for the first time, she tries to leave, but he reports her car stolen that's under his name. He reports her credit card stolen that's under his name. And he has somebody who's like a confidant of his call Child Protective Services on her to be like, she's under investigation now, Child Protective Services, and everyone thinks that not the hero, everyone thinks that the father of the child is such a good guy, and he's actually like this horrible, horrible character. And he's not the love interest. The hero is actually a like rival basketball player to the father, but the part of this video is with children, so that's what I'm talking about. But I really, really liked this book, and I liked the aspect of the child. I thought it made it even more difficult and added such an intense aspect to the story. Then when the main character is able to get away from the father of the child and with her child, keep her child safe, she has such like apprehension about starting a relationship with the hero because she doesn't want to be in another bad relationship, and she wants to do everything she can to protect her child. And she's like, and to protect herself. I think it added so much to the story to have the child be in it and add that to the torment that the main character went through. The next one is Spotlight by Eden Finley. This is another male-male romance, and this is a rock star romance, sort of. So I'm gonna have to look up their names. So the characters' names are Ryder and Lyric. So Ryder is a single father. He is gay, but he had a like drunken one night stand with his childhood like friend. And she got pregnant, but she is in the military, so she's gone a lot of the time. And so he has full custody of the daughter. And she's quite young. She's like just about to start like kindergarten, I think. And he is a ex boy band member. So he was a member of this boy band, and then when they broke up, he didn't want to start a solo career or anything because he wanted to just have full-time take care of his child. So, but he's quite famous because he was in this boy band, and so he has like paparazzi and fans following him a lot. And so his daughter doesn't really have like a normal life because she's constantly like trying to be photographed and everything, and Ryder is doing like everything he can to keep her out of the media. But all she wants is to make friends and go places and like have fun. So he finally realizes that he's like, I can't do this by myself. I need help. And so he hires this man to be a nanny, and to take care of his daughter. The guy that he hires, his name is Lyric, and he is has a degree in childcare, but he is trying, which is like his backup career, but he's trying to be a rock star. And so Lyric and Ryder are like instantly like attracted to each other, but Ryder is so concerned with his daughter that he has like sworn off all relationships, dating, everything. He won't do it. He's like, I need to be here for my daughter. I don't want anything in the media that could jeopardize my daughter. So he's not out. He is in the closet still, and he doesn't want to come out because he's like, I'm not going to come out until my daughter is older and it won't be such a big issue for her. My heat just kicked on. I'm sorry if you can hear it. but he wants everything he can to keep out of the media and keep his daughter safe, basically. So he can't stay away from Lyric, and they're like very, very drawn to each other. And so they start this relationship, like a sexual relationship, but they really like each other, and so it very much builds into like a relationship. And they Ryder has to deal with the fact that he can't stay away from Lyric, and that he wants to be in a relationship with him, and he has to get over the fact that like his daughter is gonna know. But he also is struggling with the fact that his daughter loves Lyric. They get really close as Lyric is her nanny. He's like, what if Lyric leaves and my daughter is so attached to him and she gets upset? Like, what if they break up and his daughter can't see him anymore? They need to deal with the fact that they're going to be in a relationship, and that it's possible. They just have to take the risk of it not working out. All right, so sorry if the camera angle changed. I just like zoomed in a little bit. I didn't like how far away it was. But the next one that I want to talk about is Wait For It by Mariana Zapata. So this one, the main heroine is actually the aunt of these two boys, but she has sole custody of them. Their parents both died. And so their father was the heroine's brother, and so she now has full custody of these two boys. And this is another one where they're not babies or like toddlers. They're not like little kids. One of the boys is like 13, I think, and the other one is like 7, something like that. So this one is the older boy, the like 13-year-old. He plays baseball. He loves baseball. He's like a huge, he has like a specialty baseball team where he's like better than like the normal baseball teams, with like for really advanced baseball players at his age. And the love interest is the coach of that baseball team, and also their across the street neighbor. So I really, really enjoyed this one. It's a little bit slow in the beginning, but the ending and like the last like half of it like totally made up for the fact that the beginning was slow. So it took me a little while to read this one, but I was so glad that I did at the finish, like worked through it by the end, and I ended up actually giving it like 4.5, almost 5 stars. I really, really, really enjoyed this one, but in normal Mariana Zapata fashion, it is a slow burn, so like the romance builds really for a really long time, but I really enjoyed it. So this one is interesting in comparison to all the others on this list, because the children are not like biologically hers, but she is dealing with the fact that she's now their mother, basically, and that she is the sole carer for these children, and that wasn't really in her plan at the time. Like, she's not married, she isn't in a relationship, she wasn't like at a place in her life where she was ready for this, but it's not something that she could control, and that she is trying her hardest to be the best that she can be for these boys. And I thought it added so much more to the story, and I really love how her relationship with the boys grew, because they go from the beginning of like, oh, we now have to live with you, like they're like, you're my aunt, like that's fine, to you're my sole carer and I really love you, and you do so much for us. And she tells them stories about their dad when he was younger, and she has to deal with own grief of losing her brother while they're grieving over losing their parents. And so they're like, can you tell us stories of our dad? And she's like, yes, and tells them stories, but it hurts her because she's still grieving for her brother. But I really enjoyed this one. I liked the romance, and it was really cute. The next one is In Bed with the Highlander by Maya Banks. This is another historical. This is a Scottish historical, and this one is about a girl named Marin, I think is her name, and she is the bastard daughter of the king. And the king, when he died, left her a huge dowry, and he also left her like a castle and a whole lot of land. So whenever she gets married, she can take control of that castle, and her husband will be in charge of that castle. And it's like a really sought after castle, and so this puts her in danger. She is really like sought after by men to try and make her their wife to take control of this castle. So she's raised in a nunnery, and like hidden away until this evil laird seeks her out at this nunnery, and so she has to flee for her life. However, she ends up being kidnapped, and while she's kidnapped, she meets this little boy. And this little boy has also been kidnapped, and she saves him from getting killed by this evil laird. And so she saves the boy, and when they escape together from this evil laird, she really protects him. It's like she protects him as if he was her own and she had just met him. And she, when there are soldiers coming towards them, she like curls her whole body like over the boy to protect him. However, unknowing to her, the soldiers that come are actually his uncles, and they think that she has kidnapped the child. And they're so confused when she's trying to protect the boy, and then they try and hurt her, and the boy jumps in front of her and tries to protect her. And this like totally confuses his uncles and is like, oh, what's going on? And she refuses to tell these soldiers who she is because she's worried about them trying to marry her forcibly. And so when they get back to their clan and their like keep, she tells the little boy to not tell anyone who she is, because she had told him her name, and she's like, don't tell anyone, and he agrees not to tell anyone. And so his father is actually the laird of this clan, and the son accidentally lets slip who she is and what her name is, and he figures it out who she actually is. And then they end up having a relationship. It's sort of a marriage of convenience at first. Like, she agrees to marry him, so it's not a forced marriage or anything. She agrees to marry him because she likes him. She's like, you're a strong laird. She knows that she needed to get married eventually. She just didn't want to get married forcibly. And so she agrees to marry him, and she is already in love with the boy, his son. So that ends up being like a really big draw for both of them, where he's like, oh, I'd like to marry you because I want your castle, but also because my son loves you. And she's like, I need to get married and I love your son, so it's okay. But their relationship forms from there, and it's really, really cute, and I really liked this one. Maya Banks is one of my favorite historical authors. I really like her books, so I liked this one a lot. This is actually the first of hers that I read. So the last one that I want to talk about is Prince Charming by Julie Garwood. This is another one where the children are not biologically the heroines. They are actually her sister's children. So this girl lives in England, and she is trying to leave England and go to America because her sister has died, and her sister's children are left with this nanny, and she wants to take custody of the children because she's afraid of her uncle and his like perverted ways. And so she's trying to keep her uncle from finding out where these children are, because he technically is like the head of the family. He holds the money and everything. So she has this marriage of convenience with this man who needs money, and her grandmother pays this man to marry her, basically. And he needs the money, and she needs a husband to get to America. And so they agree to get married so that she can make it to America, and then that they're going to part ways. So she doesn't tell him, the man, she doesn't tell him about her actual goal of finding the children. And so they make it to America, and she tries to leave the husband and go in search of these children, and he's like, what are you doing? So she has to try and like sneak out and try and find him and everything. And what ends up happening is she ends up going to the location where the children are supposed to be, and they are not there. And so she ends up having to tell him about it and go on this, and they end up having to search for the little babies, the little children. And they have to like go on this search of finding out, because the woman that was supposed to be taking care of the babies died. And they didn't know that she had died. And then the people that ended up finding the children sold the children. So it's like deals with like a whole lot of stuff. But they end up on this like big search to try and find the children. And then when they find the children, they decide that they're going to part ways, like the hero and the heroine, which was like their original plan. And he is trying to go back to his like home in the Montana area, like Montana territory. And he thinks that she's going to stay in the city because he thinks that she's this like city person, but she's trying to hide as far away from her uncle as she can. And so she decides to take the children and go move to the Montana territory in this tiny ass town that they're building to raise the babies that she is calling her own children. But I really enjoyed it, would actually totally recommend it. But that was the last one that I wanted to talk about. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, or if you have any other recommendations for romances that have children in them. But other than that, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, or subscribe if you want to see more from me. I can talk. But other than that, I'll see you in my next video. But if you want to catch up with me in the meantime, my links to my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter are always in my description. Have a good day.